Hello friends, welcome back to our little coffee club. I'm glad that you guys are here with me. Before I start, I want to give a couple of shout outs. I have a couple of subscribers or members here in our little coffee club that I want to send a shout out to because they've been leaving me comments and they're pretty excited about the videos. Thank you guys, I really appreciate it. I think these are YouTube handles and it's one of those that is hard for me to say and to memorize. So that's why it'd be a lot better if I get to know you guys name. I don't think this is like names, but again, if it's anybody out there that has a very unique name, that would be me. But these little club members here, they go under, we got, I think if you would pronounce it something like Woj Tech, WOJTEK, I think is what it is. And then we have Virterm, VIRTERM. But thank you guys. You guys have been enjoying the videos, and I really appreciate the conversations that we've been having down in the comments. And I appreciate you guys a whole bunch for leaving me messages and thumbs up and all that good stuff. Thank you so much. Anyway, it really blows my mind sometimes that you guys spend a whole hour here with me sometimes. So, but it's really cool, really cool. It's what keeps me excited on making these videos. Again, I always say it, but filming myself making coffee every time, I mean, I don't see too much of a point, but the interaction between us, I definitely enjoy that. That is the reason for me to put these videos together, because I don't mind filming them. The brew session is going to happen regardless. I was doing this before the videos and enjoying it just the same way. I love lighting my little candle in the background and enjoying maybe a YouTube video of somebody talking about coffee just like the same way I do. So yeah, I hope I can keep you guys company here for the next few minutes. I hope that you make something tasty here to enjoy with me. And we're going to play a little bit more today, or I want to cover a little bit more on the Lelit LCC, what they call Lelit Control Center, I believe is what they call it. And you know, unfortunately, there's very little information on the user's manual as to how to use this thing, okay? There's not a lot. There's really not a lot. I've searched online a whole bunch and I have not found. The only thing you can basically download is the same thing I already have, the book that comes with the machine. And it doesn't get in depth into anything. It kind of like a little overview of most of the stuff, and that's it. So in the last video, you guys saw, well, first let's talk about the channeling. So, you know, I'm calling this one. I'm calling this one. WDT, I think, is very important for your espresso extraction. And it even has some other uses. You guys have seen me declump in the little cup the catch cup that you grind into. So either you're making a pour over, or you might be making espresso or whatever, maybe in the mocha pot, and it's still beneficial to be able to do that and make it fluffy and declump your coffee, even in the catch cup. When you add it to whatever device it is you're brewing into, again, you can use the WDT. You guys see me use it, that wet WDT technique or whatever that people are doing. And for me, for example, on the tricklet, it helps a whole bunch to control channeling. So, you know, WDT is a must. I think it's pretty much a must. And just get the cheap one, because I don't see a huge benefit of getting an expensive one. If you're a hobbyist and you want it, then that everything goes out the window at that point. Just something that makes your process more fun, enjoyable. You just want to see it there, whatever. If it makes you happy, get it, okay? That's fine. But do you need it to make better coffee? Probably not, okay? Probably not, guys. So maybe in the hands of a professionally trained or expert person that's been doing this for many years, you have a lot of practice, or you have just some kind of special technique or something, I don't know. Maybe perhaps for them, maybe they can make it more worth it. Maybe they can make it to where it makes a noticeable difference. But for your average consumer, I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna say just get the cheap one. As a matter of fact, on the last video, I think the second shot, the one I did with the regular needles, extracted better, looked better, They both had a tiny bit of channeling. You know, if I'm able to extract a screenshot of the moment when the channeling occurs, I'll try to include a picture of that right here. Okay, so if I'm able to do that.
Okay, I'm gonna do one better than that. I'm gonna show you guys last week's first shot in full screen glory right here. I left the audio turned on, so obviously some of what I'm saying was last week as I was pulling the shot and recording the video. I don't think you guys will confuse the audio from last week and this one because the voiceover sounds obviously different.
All right, here we go. Okay, I'm letting it ramp up slow. All right, looks like we might get to 9 bars today. Yes, we are. Okay, we're shooting for 45 grams. 45 grams in maybe 30 seconds.
Okay, so the channeling occurs 34 seconds into the shot and 20 seconds from first drip. And it lasted for 10 frames of video. So that means that the channeling lasted a third of a second. Being that I'm recording at 30 frames per second, that turned out to be some easy math. Notice that it happens from the upper left on the edge of the portafilter. This frame here is the very first one with channeling on it. And this frame here is the very last one. So let's watch this part again in real time and then I'll let the rest of the shot play out. This was the shot from the thin needles and I couldn't see any other channeling on this recording. As you guys can see, it was very small amount of channeling. And now let's take a look at the second shot, the one from the thicker needles. Again, remember that I'm including the original audio from last week.
Okay, let's hope I do a better ramp up than last time. I'm still trying to get the hang of ramping up slowly. With the Slayer shots, it was so easy for me and just got so good at it.
I think this shot started better and looked prettier overall. On this shot, the channeling occurs 14 seconds into the shot and only 2 seconds after the first drip. Notice that the channeling again happens from the edge of the portafilter on the bottom right. What could I be doing wrong that could be causing channeling from the edge between the coffee puck and the filter basket? If you guys have an idea, please comment below. Let's watch this part again and then I'll let the rest of the video play out. After that, we'll go back to today's video. But again, it was very little channeling on both shots, but overall, I think the second one with the thicker needles was better.
Got so good at it so quick. I did a better job this time. And we got to 9 bars. Okay, so we're looking again for 45 grams in maybe 35 seconds. That's what the other one ended up being.
Now back to today's video.
If not, just believe me, if you look really carefully, you might be able to see it. It was tiny, it was very small, but I did see the few little spots on my counter. And so yeah, there was a tiny bit of channeling on both shots. But the way it looked, and I don't know, to me the second shot just looked a little bit better. They both tasted perfectly fine. Okay, now let's talk about the LCC. So when I was getting ready for that shot, you guys saw that I had with the dark roast coffee, I had sped up the shots so that I could get a faster shot, and perhaps I wouldn't get that little bit of bitterness I was getting. And in some cases, a bit more bitterness than I'm willing to accept when I know I can control it, right? So that led me to think, okay, I sped up the shot as much as I'm willing to, okay, because I kept speeding it up. Once it became to like a 25-second shot and it was starting to get messy, it wasn't flowing the way I wanted to see it, I figured, you know what, maybe it's time to grind a little bit finer and slow it down a little bit, but let's start playing with the temperature. And that's the next thing you could do to kind of help your extraction, to extract more or less. If you go with a hotter temperature, you can extract more flavor, more out of the coffee. You'll get rid of some acidity, like on some lighter roasts like these. which I explained last time. I already tried speeding it up. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. For me, these shots need to have a long blooming or long pre-infusion time, or whatever you want to call it. And then maybe you can get a 35, 40 second, maybe even 45-second shot after that. So the whole entire shot is going to end up being at least a minute to maybe even as much as a minute and a half. And I'm perfectly okay with that. As long as there's no bitterness and there's still acidity. I want to taste the acidity, but balance with the sweetness. That's what I want from this. And the dark roast, I actually had a lot more trouble with, which is usually the other way around. I sped it up a whole bunch. It became like too fast and kind of messy looking. I didn't like it. I decided, well, it's time to roll it back, maybe grind a little bit finer, slow it down a little bit, and play with the temperature, because that's the other thing you can play with in order to get rid of the bitterness. So if you want to get rid of acidity and get more extraction, raise the temperature. If you want to get rid of bitterness because it's getting over extracted, then lower the temperature. Same with your pour overs. Okay, it works the same way as far as temperature. Okay, so you guys saw that I went into the LCC and I changed the boiler temperature, which it was correct. The one I thought was the boiler temperature, that's what it is the boiler temperature. And the one that's called, I think the setting is called, we'll see it in a second, but I think it's called brew temperature offset. That setting, okay, the offset, here's how it works. Here's how the offset works. Again, this is in an E61 machine like this, it's very analog, okay? It's very manual. You're dealing with a process that's very dynamic, okay? It's affected by the environment and a lot of things. It's not so precisely controlled, like for example, on a very like digitized kind of like very controllable type of machine, like a decent espresso machine. The decent, everything is controlled very precisely, and there's all kinds of settings, and it's very digitized. It's not like a very analog, very mechanical. Think of it this way. You might want to ride a car that you put it on automatic and you just press the gas and you go. And the car, or maybe even a Tesla that just drives by itself. That's, something like that. This is something with manual gears, and you're changing the gears yourself, and you're fighting the road a little bit more. It's something more like that, okay? If that makes sense. So, but the main thing is that you guys saw I changed the brew temperature. I believe it was by 8 degrees. I think we went down to 87. Yeah, as a matter of fact, it should be set there now. All right, the machine had timed out, so I went and started it back up. But basically what you could do is when you first turn on your machine, if you know you want to brew a dark roast and you want to try it at a lighter temperature, you don't need to wait till the machine like gets up to temperature or anything like that. You can go right into your LCC settings, go to your brewer temperature and reset it right there, make your changes so that when it heats up, it goes to that temperature and not further. Last time what happened was, and again, I'm trying to explain this whole dynamic process, right? So last time what happened was that I had it set for 95. I changed it to 87. And then I went into the brew temperature offset and I brought that down by 8 degrees. What that would do, that the boiler has to cool down to that temperature. It might have not even been exactly at that temperature when I started pulling the shot. So it's just very dynamic. There's a lot of processes happening. But basically, if you start your machine already set at 87, then it's not going to overshoot. Everything's going to warm up to 87. And then the group it's never going to get up to 87 because it's circulating water from the boiler. The water's coming out of the boiler at 87. But as it circulates through the group, it's going to lose temperature. And your group maybe is going to stay somewhere around 82, let's say 82, 83, something like that. And again, that's what I'm saying. It's very dynamic. It depends on your environment. Maybe I'm in a hot place, so it'll stay warmer. Maybe I'm in a cold room and it'll be cooler. So the group is going to lose heat to the environment, right? So the boiler holds that temperature at whatever is set at. When you start pulling the shot, it comes out of the boiler and right away starts losing temperature. So as your shot starts to extract, it's at a lower temperature. But because more of that hot water is coming through the group as you're pulling the shot, During those 30 seconds, you will most likely reach the temperature that's at the boiler, okay? So it's kind of ramping up pretty quickly, okay? That's kind of what happens. Now, if you do the offset as well, the boiler is no longer gonna try to maintain that set temperature. So we were set at 87. I put it at a -8. So that means that when you hit the lever to start the shot, the water starts coming out at 87. It's gonna cool down a little bit because your group is not quite at 87. It depends on the ambient temperature. Maybe it's at 84, okay? So as the hot water starts passing through the group and pulling your shot, remember it's coming up very slow and it's building pressure and it's heating up fast. So maybe in 15, 20 seconds, you'll be at 87, okay, as your shot is pulling. Now, that's if the boiler is trying to maintain 87, because then what happens is that the boiler is pulling in fresh water from the reserve tank, and that water is at ambient temperature. So the boiler needs to be heating quite profusely to kind of try to maintain that temperature. And then what's going to happen is that if you did that offset, okay, if you did the offset, and in my case I put it at a -8, it's going to allow that temperature to drop. In my case, all the way down to 79. So the heating element might not be operating while you're pulling the shot, okay? Because it's very dynamic, it might never get down to the temperature that it's shooting for, as far as the water in the boiler, okay? So it might, for sure it's pumping now colder water because cold water from the reserve tank came into the boiler. It started to cool things down. The heating element is not on because now you did the offset while you're pulling the shot, right? It's on the offset. It's gonna allow a drop of 8 degrees in there. That's what I set it at. If you pull like a really ridiculous long shot, like I've done here in the channel before, I admit it, perhaps by then it already dropped to that temperature in the boiler, and then it'll try to maintain 79 degrees if you did -8 at 87, -8. Now, as soon as you stop your shot, the boiler's it's gonna turn on and it's gonna come up to the holding temperature. In my case, it was 87 degrees. So it's gonna heat back up, go to 87. The offset will still be there. You pull another shot, again, the same process is gonna happen. So it's just like it's kind of like a temperature profiling, if you wanna call it. And it's something to experiment with. You know, I'm still trying, obviously, to wrap my head around all of these functions and all of that. It's little bit difficult to understand. There's not a lot of information that I could read it and try to really learn it. You know, this is from little bits of information here and there. And that's how I gathered all this information since we did the last video. So I could explain a little bit further as to what is that temperature offset, okay, and how it works. The boiler temperature, that's very easy to understand. You know, that's the holding temperature in the boiler. Why the group doesn't get up to the same temperature, that's easy to understand. The water is coming out of the boiler and nothing else heats it. The only thing it could do now is lose temperature. So as it circulates through all that mass there, all that, the group head is very massive piece of metal, okay? It starts to absorb the heat. The water goes back into the boiler, it heats, the boiler will maintain that holding temperature. And as the water circulates in there, and by the way, the pump does not need to run for that water to circulate through the group, okay? It's just, I think they call it pressure siphoning or something. It's just, it's happening all the time without the pump being on, okay? And that little bit of warm water circulating there will hold the temperature on the group, and it's gonna be very hot, but not exactly the temperature at the boiler, because there's always loss. There's always some kind of loss, okay? Now the offset, again, just to go over it one more time, the offset, if you set it at a plus, then the boiler, as soon as you start pulling the shot, it's gonna go all out there trying to raise the temperature as you're pulling the shot. So maybe you start, let's say you have it, again, let's just use the same example. You're at 87. As it's coming out of the puck, okay, it's hitting your coffee, okay? By the time it gets to the coffee, maybe it's down to 84. Because again, the group is not exactly at the same temperature. But as more and more of that hot water is coming through, and this happens quickly, okay? It will go up fairly quickly, maybe in 20 seconds or so, 30 seconds, depending on ambient temperature, depending on a lot of factors. Again, very dynamic. And by the end of your shot, you should be somewhere around the boiler temperature, 87. So it just ramped up really quickly to that temperature. Now, if you had it at a plus, the boiler is on and trying to heat that water as it's coming from the tank, hitting the boiler, is just trying to heat it as fast as possible. So the temperature will overshoot. If you have it at, let's say, at a +8 instead of -8. As you're pulling the shot, the boiler is working really hard, bringing in that water. The water is coming through the group. Everything's getting hotter. The water, as it goes through the boiler, is getting close to like boiling point, and it's pushing all of that, and it's raising the temperature. Now, if you happen to hit your +8, then the boiler will just try to maintain there. That's my understanding. Okay, it'll try to maintain that, but that's almost never going to happen. This is just a very dynamic kind of process. It's gonna be a ballpark figures, okay? And people that have done the measurements, you see where it's not exact, it's like ballpark figures, okay? So finding the sweet spot is like everything else in dialing in, okay? It's very dynamic. It's a very mechanical kind of process, things that you have to play with and experiment with. You know, in my case, last time when I did both temperatures, it worked on my favor. I got rid of the bitterness and it was a perfectly smooth shot, and that's what I was looking for. Today, just to keep playing with the whole offset and boiler temperature and all of that, I left it set at 87. That's where we were last time. I think I had reset my offset back to 0. I'll get back in the offset. We'll set it at let's try a +10, okay? Why a +10? I'm gonna do a lighter roast. Again, I'm gonna shoot for that long blooming. Again, what I've been calling the Slayer shot, or a lot of people call the Slayer shot. It's just a long pre-infusion phase of the shot. We'll shoot for around 30 seconds. Once I get to 30 seconds, we'll ramp up to the 9 bars. And hopefully the extraction lasts, for us to get our 45 grams, we'll do a 1 to 2.5, 18 in and 45 out. So for us to hit that number, maybe it'll take another 35, 40 seconds. I'll be happy with something like that. Now I'm doing a +10. So that boiler's gonna be working really hard to kind of do like a temperature profiling, where the temperature keeps increasing as you're pulling that shot, getting more of an extraction. And let's see what happens with that. Again, if this is something that you listen to it and you're like, wow, this is way too complicated, I don't wanna worry about none of that, then, you know, don't mess with it. If you want a Bianca, you don't want to mess with that, then just don't mess with it. But if you're a hobbyist, a lot of times we want to have that ability to tinker with as many things as we can. We want to play with everything. Pre-infusion, you want to do different kind of distribution, you want to try extracting at a more time, less time, pressures, play with pressures, play with it. That's what we do. This is a hobby, and you have to take it in that way for you to enjoy this. If it's not something you're enjoying, just don't get into those settings. Up until now, I hadn't touched that, right? But the ability to do it is there, and it's just one more factor that you can mess with and see what it does and kind of experiment with, and maybe you discover something great. So again, that's what we're going for today, just to keep experimenting. But hopefully I explained a little bit more as to how that brew temperature offset works, and the boiler temperature, and why is there 2 temperatures. And I was kind of a little bit confused on the last video as to that. But that's kind of like how it works. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I'll get back to you for sure. Let's get to the other counter, pull a shot. And man, you know what? I have to say this. This Congo Kivu coffee from Good Brothers is one of the best espressos I've ever had. It's just excellent. And the Ethiopian Taru, this coffee was difficult for me to dial in, and the very first one that gave me kind of a challenge on the Bianca. But at the end of the day, one thing that I did learn from messing with this coffee, and the interaction between us, because I'm always trying to learn. I try to learn from you guys, and some of you guys thought that it was pretty ridiculous to pull a 2-minute shot, but maybe, and for sure I said it in that video, hey, this definitely should not be 2 minutes. I got something wrong here. I admitted it. So but right away I knew that I have to speed it up. But I did speed it up, and once you get to a certain level, like a 35-40 second shot with no pre-infusion, you're just kind of ramping up, This to me tastes like battery acid. It's way too acidic, under extracted, and to me it tasted like, it just tasted very sour, very sour. Beyond, there's a difference between like the nice acidity. I love that. That's, to me, it's awesome. But when you start going beyond that, it's just sour and under extracted. I don't like that, and that's what I was getting. So for these kind of lighter rolls, for sure, the long pre-infusion and those long shot times, that's where it's at least for me. Everyone's different. I understand that. But for me, on something like this, I'm looking at least a minute shot time, a total time. So that's like a long pre-infusion, like 30 seconds. I think that long pre-infusion does something. I think it really does. Try it, experiment with that. Here's the thing, if you're on a Breville, it's very hard to control that. I don't even know if you can keep holding the button and wait 30 seconds and then you're just gonna run out of time. You won't be able to pull your shot. So on a rotary pump, like the Bianca, that you can just keep the extraction going as long as you want, it just definitely works on your favor. It works on your favor in that, for that purpose. So anyway, that's my take on it, on these lighter rolls. At least go for, well, I can't imagine like less than like 20-second pre-infusion, 20-second shot time. I can't imagine less than that. And all the way to like 3 times that, maybe. Who knows? At least double that, right? 40-second pre-infusion, 40-second shot time. I can easily see me doing a shot like that and working out for me perfectly. Where I still have acidity, it was still there. And there is absolutely no bitterness whatsoever. You just have a sweetness at the end, a nice sweet finish with gentle acidity that you enjoy, but not like very punchy acidity that's a smack in the face like it happens sometimes. So anyway, enough chit chatting. Let's get to the other counter. Let's pull a shot. I'm set up for the bottomless portafilter again. Let's see if, hopefully we don't get a mess. This is on a lighter roast. We'll see. Let's hope we don't get a big mess. I'm gonna use the Pasado tools. Pasado, please sell me a matching holder for my WDT. Anyway, let's get to the other counter. Okay, so first things first, right? I told you guys the boiler temperature was already set at 87. I didn't touch it from last time. So just to recap, to get into the settings, you press the minus, and to toggle through the settings, you keep hitting the minus, okay? So let's get back in. Okay, the first thing is pre-infusion time on, low flow start, low flow final, brew temperature offset. That's the one we're getting into today. So you hit the plus, that'll make it blink. After that, you can go plus or you can go minus, depending what you're trying to do. So I'm gonna keep going with the plus. We're gonna try to get to a plus 10, and we're gonna do kind of like a temperature profiling. Now you just let it blink, and in a couple seconds, it will go away from there, and it's set for that. Brew temperature offset, I'm at a plus 10. The boiler temperature is at 87. So as soon as I start pulling the shot, the machine is gonna try to heat the water more and more to try to hit 97. So that's probably never gonna happen because you're having loss and the shot doesn't take that long to pull. Who knows? You would need to put a gauge. You would need to put some kind of sensor in a temperature probe inside the basket and let it build pressure and all that, and you have to be set up for that. But if you have the right setup, you can actually take the temperature and see what happens as it's pulling. And there's videos on YouTube. There's not a lot of information on this. I hope at least getting into the settings and this brew temperature offset and the boiler temperature, and at least this video helps people that are looking for this kind of information, because there's really not a lot. So if you want to, again, have more conversation below as to a particular setting that you're looking into, or you want to know a little bit more, leave me a comment and I'll try to figure it out for you. Or look it up somehow. So let's go ahead and dose out our 18 grams and do some puck prep. All right, so the Congo Kivu, I gotta say, wonderful coffee. I really enjoyed it. It's almost run out. By the way, all my light roasts are almost run out. So I have some on order from Hawaii. I have some 100% Kona, some cow coffee, and there's one more. There's 3 different coffees from the same roaster. It's called Big Island, I believe, Big Island. They are based in Hawaii. They have the farm. As far as I know, they have the farm, and they do roasting for themselves and for some of the local growers in the area. And they can play with all these different varietals and different areas of Hawaii and try all the, you can order from them and try the different varieties. So anyway, let me zero this out. Let's do our 18 grams. So yeah, we got some coffee from Hawaii. As soon as I receive it, I'll record a video, open the bags with you guys. You know, when I edit these videos back, I have to listen carefully to what I'm saying. You know, sometimes you misspeak, and if you're having regular conversation with someone, then it's so much easier because the person can say, you know, they can ask you, you know, hey, I didn't get this, or I don't understand what. You can repeat things. You can kind of say things differently. I think I just caught myself saying that we have this coffee from Hawaii, but I don't have it. It's on the way here, okay? It's on order. So I should have said we have it on order. So, but that's the kind of thing, you know, just, you know, that in some situations that could make a difference, right? Like a misunderstanding, like, wait, that's not what I meant, kind of thing. So yeah, I think I just noticed that. Okay, we have our 18 grams. We're exactly at 18 grams. One of the things we always do on this channel is check retention. So here we go. Let's see what the niche gives us today. You know, we haven't had to use the little bellows for a while. Let's see what happens today. My little candle's running out, guys, running out. Okay, start it one more time. Let's see what we got today. Okay, 18 in, 18.1 out. That's roughly the same thing. So, well, the niche has been on point lately. Okay, let's do some puck prep. All right, so when I'm using the pasado tools, you know, my little technique of fluffing things out in the catch cup, it's pretty much a no-go. I can't get in there. I don't want to get everything all dirty and kind of I'm not gonna do that. So I just don't do it. With the longer needles, the other distribution tool, then I don't see why not. It's I think it helps the situation. Okay, so let's see. It's nice and dry. Everything's really hot. Again, I know I need a tamping station for my bottomless portafilter. I'm on the lookout for one. I haven't found something that, you know, come on, Pasado, why don't you make a tamping station with this nice wood? I can get the little matching set. I know it'll be expensive. I'm prepared. All right, let's see. Okay, wow, okay. Okay, I ground this. I think I forgot to tell you guys. But for this lighter roast, obviously I'm not grinding at 14 or anything like that. This is at 11, just past 11. 11, let's call it 11.25. So 11 and a quarter, just past 11. And it takes up way less room in the portafilter. All those darker roasts, it was the same 18 grams, but you could see how it was a lot like coming over the top kind of thing. Okay, so dosing funnel, and then we do some WDT. Just take your time. Doing circles, go around and around doing circles and keep coming up. At the end, just kind of comb the bed here, the top of the puck. Leave it nice and fluffy and same density everywhere. If you're doing good WDT, again, a distributor, you know, it's fun to use, but does it do much after that? You know, probably not. I still want to get one. You know, one of the fun things about espresso, and one of the things or the reasons I imagine why people get into it, is the tools. The tools. We like is like big kids with toys, you know. You know, tea, because sometimes these coffees, they taste like kind of like a tea. Maybe you could have a tea and it have the same kind of experience, but you don't have the tools. We don't have grinders and burrs and pressure and steam, and you know, we're into that stuff. Okay, so the tamper is the thing. You know, the tamper, maybe in somebody with good technique, you can make it work better than the Lelit. But for me, it's just the Lelit one is, well, I took to it like a fish to water. It was very intuitive. It fit in my hand. The first time I tamped with it, I could see the improvement, you know, coming from the Breville. Obviously, the Breville tamper is like worst case scenario. But you know, it was a huge difference. But going to this one, I'm going backwards. It's not, this is not better than the other one. But let's see what I can do with it today. It is, now again, you know, these tools are very pretty, man. They did a great job. As far as the look of it, it's beautiful. Wow, that went way in there. I could see where it's way crooked, like always. I'm not getting better. Let me straighten it out. Now, that's not a best case scenario, right? Best case scenario, you want to tamp and for it to be flush right from the get-go. You're not doing that adjustment. But if you don't adjust it, it's even worse. So I know that's not ideal, but again, you know, it is what it is. What are we gonna do? Okay, right now it's nice and flush and even, okay? All right. Now the end result, that is really low in there, really, really low. You know, I would do our little upside down test, but you know, I'm not gonna get into that today. If you're new to the channel, you don't know what I'm talking about, but this was a thing in the past here in the channel, and until it became a little bit of an issue. All right, so here's the puck screen. Again, this is just to keep things clean. I don't want the puck getting stuck on the shower screen of the machine, and I don't want things getting dirty. So the puck screen kind of helps you for the grounds not to go up into the machine. That's all it is. It doesn't give you a better shot or a worse shot or anything. All right, I'm kind of locked in and ready to go here. But one last thing I wanna say before pulling this shot is that I'm imagining, okay, you know, I'm imagining I'm not gonna like this as much as when I pulled the shot at 95, which is what we were doing before, and getting like, you know, it was like a 30-second pre-infusion and like 40-second shot time. I think the timing today is probably gonna be roughly the same. You know, the timing is not gonna be the issue, but the colder starting temperature, although it's gonna ramp up, you know, I have a feeling it's gonna work against me here, and I'm gonna have a bit too much acidity for my taste. But you know, again, you gotta experiment with these things and try them out. So maybe I could be all wrong. Maybe it's great. I don't know. Maybe it's the same, because at the end of the day, again, this is like I keep saying, it's such a dynamic process. There's so much going on with the temperatures and the pressures and all the stuff that at the end of the day, maybe it turns out the same. So we'll see. Okay, I have all the cameras running. Let's get the Akaya up here. Again, flawless. I already called that one. You know, definitely there's something to the Akaya. It just works better. All right, so let's get our shot cup up there. We're gonna do that long pre-infusion, and after 30 seconds, I'll ramp up. Now, if it starts dripping early and I get like 2-3 grams in the cup already, I'll just stop pre-infusion at that time, if that were to happen. So let's just see how it goes down. Okay, we start with the paddle at 5 o'clock. It's kind of hard for me to see if this is centered. I keep adjusting it. I think I should have good results there. Let's hope we don't get any splashing. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna get my little, this is a light roast. I think this is the first time we're doing the bottomless with a lighter roast coffee. Oh boy, here we go. When it starts to build pressure, I'm gonna try to hold it around 2.5 bar. For 30 seconds or until I have about 2 grams in the cup, whatever comes first. It is dripping. Okay, I'm at 2 grams in 30 seconds, so that worked out perfectly. Now we do the ramp up. I didn't overshoot the 9 today, I usually overshoot. Okay, right there, I'm right at 9 bar. We're gonna try to get 45 grams of espresso coming out. Again, it doesn't look as pretty as the dark roast, that's for sure. Look at the previous video if you want to see a pretty shot. Okay, we're close. Okay, 44.3, so just under 45. Again, from first drip is 40 seconds. Total shot time, 60 seconds, a minute. So wow, this is picture perfect. Okay, if I don't like it, then I can attribute that to the lower temperature that I started at, and this kind of like what we're calling now, I guess, temperature profiling that we did with the with that brew temperature offset. You know, it just didn't work in our favor, let's just say, because as far as timing, this is picture perfect. This is what you want from a proper Slayer shot, if that's what you want to call it, or one of these long pre-infusion shots. This was picture perfect, man. It doesn't get any better than that. Let's hope it worked in our favor as far as the temperatures and all that stuff. So let's get to the other counter and taste it and wrap things up. All right, let's taste it. Cheers. Okay, it is delicious. Let me say that, it is delicious. Let me try it again. Again, this was one of my favorite coffees I've ever had as espresso. So is the other one. The other one is wonderful, and they're somewhat similar, I have to say. As filtered, they work perfectly fine as well. So if you want to have something nice, filtered coffee, either one works great. Awesome flavor. Today is delicious, but different than last time. Different. Wow, you know what? It might be different in a good way. It might even be better. It's hard to say when you don't have them side by side to compare. I've been drinking shots of darker roast coffees the last few times because I have a lot of dark roasts that I have to go through. And it's just so different. This is so different. You if you know, you know. You know, the level of brightness, the different interesting kind of flavors that you get, the nuances. It's very different, you know. Obviously you get a little bit of that acidity, but this is where the acidity is wonderful. This is where it works for me. It's just something that tickles your tongue. It's not a punch in the face, okay? I don't know. Like I said, if you know, you know. If you've been playing around with these coffees long enough, then you know. Nice aroma. Wow, very interesting. Very, you know, I don't know if it had anything to do with that, the temperature profiling, or that you started at a cooler temperature, but you ramped up and extracted more at the end. I don't know if that makes a difference. I don't know, but it's wonderful. It's great. It worked on my favor this time. You just keep playing, experimenting. If you want to remember what you did, take some notes. A lot of coffee hobbyists, we will take notes to kind of remember something that we found enjoyable, then you can try to replicate it later. I'm not gonna chit chat a whole bunch today here at the end, because again, this video is gonna get super long, although we're only pulling one shot, but still there was a lot of going on today. Well, I don't remember what the tasting notes were, but I remember my opinion on the coffees, that they were not citrusy, they're more like fruitier coffees and having a sweetness to it, like a sugar note, and that's apparent. You could see that. Is this the one that the ginger bread, or what was it? Was this the one that maybe the graham, cracker kind of sweetness? Let me see what, I don't remember. When we first opened the bags, if you're new to the channel, when I first opened the bags, I always guess at the tasting notes, just to see if I get close. Sometimes I've gotten some spot on, sometimes I'm way off. So, and a lot of times it has to do with the way you brewed it that one particular time, because you do see it evolve and change as it goes. But it's just fun to try to guess at them the very first go around, because you have no idea. Once it is suggested to you, you kind of like, oh yeah, I see that, All right, so let's see. Definitely not citrusy, fruity, and there's a sweetness for sure. Let's see what this one was. Oh, this was the red currant. I remember looking that up. It's like tiny little berries. They're like wild berries, tiny ones, red currant. They're supposed to be very tangy. I didn't get that at all from, all right, now that it's suggested, let's try again. There's definitely more of that today than last time. Last time was a longer extraction and hotter temperature. Today, there's a little bit more tanginess. I could see that. Today I could kind of see it, but again, once it gets suggested to you, then you can not see it. So, all right, so the red currant, I remember. Then we have dark chocolate and brown sugar. And that sugar note, that's one thing I kind of get often, whether it's like some sweet fruit or some kind of sugar note. I kind of get those, I kind of get close to those notes pretty often. So yeah, that's what this one is. Now that we're on the subject, let's just read the other one. I forgot. The other one, this is the Teddy Grahams. Okay, tart citrus, which I didn't get the tart citrus. They both are supposed to have like a little tanginess to them. The way I've been brewing them with those longer extractions, you kind of kill a little bit of that. It gets sweeter and you lose some of the acidity, and maybe I lost some of that tanginess, lingering finish. I didn't get the lingering finish last time either. So as a matter of fact, I don't get the lingering finish thing. I guess I just don't get that at all. All right, you know what? I've been chit-chatting way too long here. I hope you guys brewed something tasty with me today and joined me with something. I'm gonna have my last sip. Sad to see you go, buddy. Yeah, today I can definitely see the little tanginess, and it is a little bit different. Is it better? I don't know. I'm just gonna call it different. The previous brews I've been getting with the longer, hotter extractions, definitely sweeter. But you lose some of the acidity and a little bit of that tanginess that the coffee has. The flavor It's still very interesting though, either way. You don't lose the depth of flavor, let's say. You don't lose that. It's still very interesting coffee. Anyway, just something to think about and to try and to experiment with. So one last thing, Pasado, come on, Pasado, make me the holder. I want the matching holder. All right. Anyway, guys, welcome to a few of the new subscribers that keep trickling in. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys. I look forward to your comments every Sunday or whenever it is you watch the video. Leave me a comment. I reply to everyone. If you want me to like get to know your name, leave me your name, because sometimes the YouTube handles are a little bit difficult to learn. But yeah, thank you for watching. Please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you guys next week.